In the middle of the international politics, trying to marshal countries towards a common goal, is the US elder statesman John Kerry, who's now the US presidential envoy on climate change. I spoke to him earlier this afternoon after his speech here at Kew, and began by putting it to him that he's giving an apocalyptic vision of the world in 100 years' time, if COP26 is a failure.
I didn't give an apocalyptic vision. I gave a very hopeful vision, providing we make smart decisions and do the things that are available to us. The only apocalyptic period comes if you don't. So people need to sit down and really understand that human beings are creating the warming, that is creating the greater intensity to the storms, that is creating the situation where you can have more of these fires and greater damage and so forth. We can change that. This is not particularly complicated, but it seems that we need to summon a lot more energy by people to engage in it. This is a big economic opportunity.
You've been to Russia and China recently. Do they believe this?
Well, China has been a leader on creating alternative renewable energy. They've deployed more than anybody else in the world. We need them, obviously, to do more because there's a lot of coal being burned. But the fact is, Russia is now very concerned about this issue.
But they have not delivered the kind of plans that you are calling for today, and the kind of commitments to almost halve emissions by 2030. China's still going to be on the way up for the next few years.
Well, what I said today was honestly what the consequences of that are. If they continue without reducing, we will not be able to achieve 1.5 degrees. Major parts of the world will suffer enormous damages as a consequence, and we will see, unfortunately, a continuation of some of the patterns of avoidance that are plaguing us today. But I think China is ready to move. I think China is doing a lot of thinking about this.
But do you think there's a credibility problem for the United States, not least after the last few years, when President Biden is making big changes, but he can't even get his own bill through as he wants it?
Well, I think he will. I think the president's going to get a terrific bill through. The point is, the president put in place very ambitious goals, and he's already taking administrative actions to achieve them.
But might not some people, Russia and China, for example, say, well, history tells us that he can make all the promises he wants for 2030. There's a good chance the Republicans will be back in power by then and change everything.
Well, let me tell you why that won't happen. Because the major corporations of the world, including in the United States, are all moving in this direction. And no politician is going to turn them around once they've committed trillions of dollars to this endeavor. That's just not going to happen. They also know that this is a real threat. This is a challenge. And they're not going to do something stupid and go backwards, given what they now know and the evidence we're seeing, the warming of the ocean, the fires we're suffering, the challenges of these floods. I mean, there's so many indicators from Mother Nature herself saying to us, hey guys, get your act together. I'm kind of out of control, and I think we need to do a better job.
You quoted the IEA saying we don't need a single new investment in oil, coal, or gas production. But
new investment.
New investment.
Think about that.
Yeah.
We have amazing oil fields and gas fields that are open today, but we have to transition in a different direction. And what's happening is people don't want to do it. The Guardian today had a headline that in 2023, we are currently on track to have a record level of emissions in the world. We can't do that. So you've got to sort of pull the cord here somewhere, rip the Band-Aid off. And that's exactly, you can do it without upsetting your economy. Look at what Britain has done with wind power. You went through the coal thing years ago. So, I mean, now there are other options available to us, and we have to take advantage of them.
So should Britain go ahead with things like the new Cambo oil field off Shetland?
I do stand by the notion that most of these projects around the world that require new exploration, new project, we need to transition in the next 10 years, not extend.
Because that's also said in America as well, isn't it? That President Biden's administration is issuing more new licenses than the previous administration.
Yes, it is being said.
I mean, is that true?
But the president has taken major steps. For instance, he has set a goal that by 2035, we will be absolutely carbon-free in our power sector. And the utilities are working with us to achieve that.
Now, on this program, we recently exposed a tape showing the way the biggest oil company in America, Exxon, lobbies politicians, especially people like Senator Joe Manchin, who they claim, their lobbyist claims they speak to regularly, they make campaign donations. There's something rotten with this system, isn't there? I mean, has it got to change?
I have been opposed to the current finance structure we have in the United States for our elections. I think it's very bad. I think it is fundamentally a kind of corruption, perception to the public, and obviously the average citizen doesn't have those millions and billions of dollars to put into advertising, and they just don't have an equal footing to get their message across.
I mean, you say this is all about governments and decisions. I mean, if we don't get the pledges that you're looking for today by November, is COP26 a failure?
What I indicated today is we're moving. We're getting closer. We have 55%. We have a majority of countries that have come to, of global GDP, of economic activity in the world is committed to this. It's growing every day. And there are other countries that I believe are going to come aboard in the next months. So I anticipate that, you're not going to get 100%. Let me be clear about that today. But you got to get as close as you can so you've got a critical mass on the majority of the emissions of the world. And then the marketplace is going to start to take over. The capital that flows through into investments because people think they're going to make money by producing things that people want to buy in this new market, which is the clean energy market of the future.
I mean, you've hit on the thing the developing world talks about all the time, which is the money, and the fact that the $100 billion a year that was pledged by 2020 hasn't materialized.
Well, it needs to be there. I've been very clear about that, and I'm working very hard, and I will continue to work very hard to make sure we have $100 billion.
And, well, how do we get there? Can it be, are you saying...
Well, we're at 80-something now. We're at 80-something now. We can identify that, and we're working very hard to plus it up as fast as we can, and we're going to work with partners in order to do that. And the United States will do a share.
Are you saying it's now private capital that will need to step in?
We need public money, we need private money, we need philanthropic money. Everybody's got to come to the table.
Can you separate climate diplomacy from actual diplomacy? And if climate is the real abyss that we're staring into, shouldn't that come first? Shouldn't you put aside everything else and say, this is the thing we need to engage China on?
Well, that's essentially what President Biden and President Xi have said. They have both said that climate is its own critical, avenue, and you've got to go down that avenue no matter what happens in the other roads. So I'm with you, and we got to make climate the significant issue it is, and particularly over the next 4 months, 100 days between now and this important meeting, and that 100 days could save many lives, save trillions of dollars, and ultimately set the planet on a path that helps us resolve this crisis.
Just finally, how personal is this for you? I mean, none of us are likely to be here to see the worst possible impacts of climate change if we don't get the kinds of commitments we're looking for. But what's at stake for us now?
Well, what's at stake is the future of our planet. The planet's future will be determined by the choices we make now. And I have children and grandchildren, and that's a pretty personal stake. I want to make sure that I'm not counted among those people who have refused to listen to the young people who taken strike in school and gone out and said, hey, adults, we're going to shake you and get you to realize you've got a responsibility to us. And I realize that. I know we have that responsibility, and I want to see us exercise it.
Secretary Kerry, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.